My name is Emily Turner, and I am 21 years old. 2 years ago, my whole world cracked open when my mom passed away. Life felt like a movie with the brightness turned off. Before she died, the house was always warm. She laughed every single morning. She sang while flipping pancakes. The kitchen smelled like coffee and toast. And everything felt safe. Everything felt whole. But now the house is quiet in a way that hurts. My dad, David, age 48, did his best. After Mom died, it was just the two of us, and we held on to each other like two drowning people trying to stay above water. I cooked dinner every night. I cleaned the house on weekends. I put fresh flowers on the table the way Mom used to. I tried to fill the emptiness, tried to keep Dad from collapsing under grief. He worked long hours, came home tired. We ate in silence most nights. We watched TV without talking. We barely said anything. But we were together. And at that time, that felt like enough. Until the day everything changed. One afternoon, Dad came home early. He stood in the doorway with a strange, nervous look on his face. He asked me to sit down at the kitchen table, Mom's kitchen table, and my stomach twisted. "Emily, I need to tell you something," he said. I nodded, already feeling something heavy pressing down on my chest. He looked at his hands for a long moment, and he said the words that froze me. "I met someone. Her name is Sarah, and I want to marry her." Just like that. My whole world tilted. I felt like the air disappeared. "Mom died 2 years ago," I whispered. How can you move on so fast?" Dad reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I will never forget your mother," he said softly. "But I am lonely, Emily." Lonely? And what was I? What was I supposed to do with grief that was still raw and bleeding? I didn't say any of that. I just stood up, walked to my room, and closed the door. That night, I stared at Mom's picture for hours. Her smile, her yellow dress, her laugh frozen in time, and I promised her in a whisper, "I won't let anyone replace you." 2 weeks later, Sarah came for dinner. Dad begged me to meet her, so I said yes. But inside, I hated the idea. She arrived at exactly 6 p.m. wearing a simple blue dress. She smiled when she saw me. "Hi, Emily. It's really nice to meet you." Her voice was soft, gentle. I didn't care. She held out a small gift box. "For you?" she said. I didn't take it. "Thanks," I mumbled, even though I didn't mean it. Dad looked disappointed. Good, I thought. We sat down for dinner. She cooked everything herself: chicken, rice, a fresh salad. The food smelled good, but I refused to admit it. Her smile wasn't Mom's smile. Her voice wasn't Mom's voice. Her presence wasn't welcome. She asked me questions. "How's school? What do you like to read?" I replied with one-word answers. Fine. Good. Yeah. Dad tried to lighten the mood, but I refused to help. After dinner, she washed dishes in my mother's kitchen, using my mother's plates, touching everything that belonged to the woman who raised me. I felt hatred rise inside me like boiling water. And then she moved the picture, my mother's picture. The next week, I arrived home and saw that the living room looked different. The couch was moved, the table shifted, furniture rearranged like someone was redesigning my memories. But the worst part? Mom's picture, the one that always sat on the small table near the window, was gone. Gone. My chest clenched. "Where is the picture?" I demanded. Sarah turned around, startled. "Oh, I put it in the hallway. It looked nice there." I didn't answer. I stormed to the hallway, grabbed the picture, put it right back on the table, looked Sarah dead in the eyes. She looked hurt. Good. I wanted her to hurt. I slammed my bedroom door so hard the walls shook. Well, the war began. I refused to eat her dinner. Every night, Dad knocked on my door. "Emily, come eat with us." "I already ate," I lied. I made instant noodles in my kettle and ate alone. I ignored Sarah every chance I got. When she spoke, I put on my headphones. When she asked questions, I walked away. I froze her out like she didn't exist. Dad grew angry. One night, he barged into my room. "Why are you being cruel?" he demanded. "You don't talk to her. You don't even try." "She's not my mom," I shouted. Dad's face broke. "I know that," he whispered. "But Emily, she's my wife now." Wife. Hearing that word felt like a punch. "You replaced Mom," I said, tears burning in my eyes. "No," he said. "No one can replace her." But everything inside me felt twisted and wrong. And that's when I blamed Sarah for the changes, for my dad's sadness, for everything. I hate her even more. And then it happened, the accident. One night, after another fight, I stormed into my room and threw my bag hard. I didn't know it slid near the stairs. Minutes later, a scream cut through the house. Then, thud, 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 the sound of a body falling down the staircase. My heart stopped. I opened my door and looked down the stairs. Sarah was lying at the bottom, unmoving. Her arm bent wrong, her eyes closed. Dad knelt beside her, panicked. "Sarah, Sarah, can you hear me?" He looked up, and that's when he saw my school bag at the top of the stairs. The look he gave me, I will never forget it. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. It was disgust. "What did you do?" he whispered. My world shattered. Ethan didn't sleep at all that night. He paced the wooden floor of the upstairs hallway, listening to the faint hum of the heater and the occasional sharp snap of the house settling under the cold. Normally, he found comfort in the silence of winter. Today, the silence felt suffocating. Downstairs, Mason and Jenna were asleep. At least Ethan assumed so. He hadn't heard movement from their side of the house for hours. His mind kept returning to Lily's voice, to her hesitation, her sudden calmness, her quiet, measured responses to questions that should have shaken her. Something is wrong. Something is deeply wrong. By sunrise, he had a plan. He went into his study, opened a new folder on his laptop and titled it Lily Observation Notes. Not because he wanted to spy on his own daughter, but because things were slipping out of control and he wanted objective data, something he could track, analyze, and understand. He typed, Day 1. Subject displays emotional detachment following confrontation with adult influence. Jenna. Behavioral shift includes increased compliance, lack of reactive emotion, and sudden change in sleep habits. Further monitoring required. He paused. He deleted subject, replaced it with Lily. He closed the laptop. The next morning, Lily came downstairs wearing a clean hoodie and her hair tied back neatly. She looked rested, too rested. Morning, she said, voice level and polite. Ethan studied her carefully. Did you sleep well? Yes. She sat at the counter and poured cereal like someone performing a task from a handbook. Exact, controlled, flawless. He forced a neutral tone. About what happened yesterday? I understand, she interrupted. I won't cause trouble again. Her phrasing froze him. Trouble, he repeated. That's not what... I know, she said again. I'll be better. Better. Another phrase he hated. Another phrase she did not use before. He sat across from her. Lily, you don't need to be perfect. You're not in trouble. She nodded, but he could see she didn't absorb the message. It was a nod of compliance, not understanding. Jenna enters. Jenna walked into the kitchen with her usual composed posture. Her movements were slow, controlled, and polished traits Ethan once found reassuring. Now they irritated him. Good morning, she said with a practiced smile. Lily's shoulders tensed, a micro-reaction, but unmistakable. Jenna placed a hand gently on Lily's back. Did you sleep okay, sweetheart? Lily stiffened. Ethan noticed. Fine, Lily replied. Jenna gave Ethan a careful look, as if measuring his awareness, then poured herself coffee. There was no trace of yesterday's confrontation in her behavior. She was normal. Too normal. The kind of normal Ethan had seen in people trying to appear innocent. The boy entered with a lazy swagger, hoodie half-zip, hair messy. He tossed a sup toward the room. Lily subtly shifted away from him. Ethan didn't miss it. He waited. He watched. Mason grabbed a granola bar, tore the wrapper aggressively, and stuffed half of it in his mouth at once. Then he glanced at Lily. Not with guilt, not with intimidation, with amusement. Ethan felt a slow burn rise in his chest. After breakfast, Ethan drove Lily to school. The roads were slick with ice and the sky still pale from early winter light. Can you tell me how you're really feeling? He asked. I'm fine, she repeated. He tried a different angle. Did something happen with Mason before yesterday? Anything you didn't tell me? She looked out the window. Dad, it doesn't matter. It does. She didn't answer the rest of the ride. Before she stepped out of the car, he caught her arm gently. "I'm on your side. That won't change." A small crack appeared in her expression. "I know." But she still walked away like someone carrying weight she wouldn't share. He returned home, but instead of going inside, he remained in the car and opened his phone. He typed into the search bar, "Children's sudden emotional withdrawal after conflict with adult figure. Signs of psychological pressure from step-parent. How to identify emotional suppression in teens." The results were clinical, repetitive, predictable. He needed something specific. So he searched again. "I'll be better, teen behavioral changes," meaning this time the results were disturbing. Articles describing children who start modifying themselves to avoid conflict with a controlling figure. Case studies of minors who mirror language used by emotionally manipulative adults. Reports of kids who become hyper-compliant after being belittled or intimidated. He closed his phone. His jaw tightened. This isn't small. This isn't harmless. This is structural behavior change. His daughter had absorbed someone else's words, someone else's tone, someone else's authority. And he had a strong suspicion who that someone was. He entered quietly. Jenna was in the living room, folding laundry. Mason was in his room, door closed, music muffled but loud enough to irritate the walls. Ethan watched Jenna for several seconds. Not because he doubted her ability to fold clothes, but because he wanted to see if she reacted to being observed. She did. She froze momentarily, barely half a second, then resumed folding smoothly. "You're quiet," she said without looking up. Ethan stepped forward. "We need to talk." Jenna placed the shirt down neatly. "About?" "Yesterday." Her eyes lifted, controlled, unreadable. "We resolved that." "No, we didn't." Mason's door opened upstairs. Heavy footsteps descended. Mason entered, chewing gum, eyes flicking between them. "What's going on?" he asked, tone casual. Ethan held his gaze. "You sit." Mason smirked. "I don't take orders from sit." The command had weight. Different weight. The weight of a father who finally stopped tolerating ambiguity. Mason dropped onto the armchair. Jenna straightened defensively. "Ethan, this is unnecessary." "No," he replied. "This is overdue." Ethan stood with both hands on the back of the couch, posture firm. He spoke with precision. "We're going to address what happened between you," he nodded at Mason, "and Lily." "I already apologized," Mason said. "You apologized like someone following a script," Ethan replied, "not like someone who understands accountability." Mason rolled his eyes. "She overreacted. I barely said anything." "You implied she had no family value," Ethan stated. Mason shrugged. "It was a joke." Ethan's voice cooled further. Children don't cry themselves to sleep over jokes. For the first time, Mason's expression shifted annoyance and replaced by discomfort. Jenna stepped in. "Ethan, he's a kid. He didn't mean it. You're right, Ethan said. He is a kid, which means it's your job to teach him boundaries, not mine. Jenna stiffened. I do teach him boundaries. No, he corrected. You justify his behavior, and now Lily is paying the price. Silence swallowed the room. Jenna eventually spoke, her tone lower. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Ethan leaned forward slightly. Because Lily is repeating phrases she didn't use before. Phrases someone put in her head. Phrases about being better. About not causing trouble. And she's showing behavioral shutdown. Jenna blinked. Behavioral what? Shut down. Each word dropped cleanly. Mason shifted, uncomfortable. Ethan continued. My daughter adapted overnight. Kids don't adapt overnight unless something pushes them hard. Jenna shook her head slowly. Are you accusing me of something? I am identifying patterns, Ethan replied. Patterns created by tone, by pressure, by hierarchy. Something you and Mason are part of. Mason clenched his jaw. We didn't do anything to her. Then you won't mind adjusting the house rules? Both of them froze. Rule 1, Ethan said. Lily is off limits. No comments about her background, her family, her behavior, or her status here. Not even in jokes. Mason shifted. Whatever. Rule 2. Ethan continued. You don't discipline her, you don't lecture her, you don't guide her. That is my job. Jenna's voice tightened. Ethan. Rule 3. He cut her off. If anything makes her uncomfortable, she comes to me first. No exceptions. Jenna opened her mouth, closed it again. And Rule 4, Ethan finished. Transparency. Every interaction with her stays visible. No closed-door discussions, no whispering, no pressure. Mason muttered, This is insane. Ethan turned toward him. You are in my house. You will respect my daughter, period. The room held the tension like a stretched wire. Finally, Jenna exhaled. Fine, if that's what you want. It's not what I want, he corrected. It's what she needs. Lily came home quiet, but calmer. Ethan didn't tell her about the confrontation. He didn't want to give false reassurance. He wanted to build actual safety. Before bedtime, Lily approached him hesitantly. Dad? Yes. She looked up at him, eyes clearer than yesterday. Did something happen with them? He answered simply, I set boundaries. She nodded slowly. Thank you. Her voice cracked just a little. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't need to adjust to this house. This house will adjust to you. For the first time in 2 days, her eyes softened with relief. She hugged him tightly. He held her longer than usual. Lily's final words before bed. Dad? Yes. Are things going to stay like this? He didn't sugarcoat it. They will stay as safe as I make them. She accepted that answer with a small, silent nod. Then she went to sleep this time without fear. Maybe life doesn't always give us the family we dream of, but sometimes pain teaches us who we really are. And Aurora's story reminds us that even in darkness, there's always a way out.